Good day to my fellow Canadians. Let's talk about Mark Carney's latest move. For about a strict decade now, we in Canada have been experiencing what is known as an environmental claim, where for the last 10 plus years, we have actively seen the Liberal Party push for a notion to specifically go greener. They wanted to shut down the oil industry, they wanted to shut down coal, and they wanted to specifically, by 2035, create a net zero Canada, where by 2035 the idea of the Liberal Party was to specifically make it so electric vehicles would be the only vehicles on the road by 2035. Now, in terms of this environmental claim which has been drilled into our heads for over a decade, what is Prime Minister Mark Carney's latest move? Well, in a random act, spontaneous you could say, that's a good one for you, Mr. Carney. I encourage you to go and pursue being more spontaneous. But allow me to place the analysis first. In terms of why is it now that in this spontaneous move, we are actively seeing Prime Minister Mark Carney speak in terms of increasing our oil production, increasing our fossil fuel production. There's even a talk of a pipeline running from Alberta to Ontario in order to create and transport our Albertan oil and return it to Ontario refineries, where we can then turn Albertan oil into Canadian diesel and gasoline right here in Canada without ever having to import in order for Canada's economy to thrive. Now that all sounds beautiful. The only problem is at the leadership level. You see, a competent leader will often speak terms that he must maintain his word. If not, that is simply just a lie. And if a politician does nothing but lie, well, eventually we get so caught up in it as a Canadian civilization, as an example. How long have we believed in the Liberal Party's claim that the environment is getting so bad as a result of Canadian oil and gas creating global warming throughout the entire earth, as a result, specifically as a claim, if we do not shut down Canadian oil, as we've seen frantic Liberal MPs and so forth frantically gasping for air in their argument, speaking that if we do not shut down the oil and gas sector of our economy, there would be no earth for the children. Mark Carney himself has said, if we do not shut down oil and gas, within 1 year, we would see a lot of deaths. Now, apart from me placing the statements of our Prime Minister and our Liberal MPs as an example, where is the latest move of our Prime Minister, Mr. Mark Carney. Now you see, as a politician, you are often voted into power, which means the policies that you were entrusted with from your team, they would see those policies and appoint you as either liberal, conservative, NDP, Green Party, on and on and on. Apart from being appointed the head of a political party, you are then voted into power by an election. And if the politician is of a good Canadian value, we can actively see the best of our politicians have often been conservative. Now, in terms of what this latest move has caused in Canadian politics, well, for one, Mr. Prime Minister Mark Carney is finally starting to think about making money rather than spending money. At, let's say, $600,000 for a first-class meal in one trip. Now, how many trips has Mr. Carney taken since being appointed as Mr. Prime Minister? Now, in terms of our, let's face it, folks, we are not in a technical recession. Canada is in a full recession. Why might this deal have been made by the Liberal Party if there was not a hope to suddenly create a stronger economy, generating wealth, rather than spending it? For over a decade, we've had this idea of environmentalism be drilled into our heads regarding how we need to shut down our biggest wealth generators as a nation. Because if we did not, people would die. Now, in terms of this drilling, let's no longer drill ideas of leftist ideology into people's heads, and let's start drilling into that ground. Let's start pulling out some oil. Let's start building that pipeline from Alberta to Ontario. And apart from this quick cash grab, which Liberals have a tendency to, you could say, have an infinite amount of get out of jail free cards. No matter the argument, no matter the situation, no matter the behavior, Liberal folks always have another argument, another get out of jail free card, another excuse. Which the more excuses we as a Canadian people keep eating up, as our people are starving. Meanwhile, our good old Mr. Prime Minister Mark Carney spends $600,000 on a single first-class meal in a plane ride. Meanwhile, we have millions of Canadians on food stamps for the food bank. Now, allow me to place this analogy, Mr. Carney. You are obviously a man of wealth. You have generated a lot of money for yourself in your private businesses and your investments. Apart from these particular investments, the money you're currently spending out of your pocket is not your own. It is Canadian taxpayer dollar that which you're spending on your wealthy lifestyle you try to maintain. And within 1 year, sir, Mr. Carney, within 1 year, you have already doubled our national debt, which had itself doubled the first 4 years of Justin Trudeau's Liberal government, which from our last Conservative leader being Stephen Harper. When Stephen Harper was our Prime Minister, things were good. Things were very good. But the more liberal we have gotten, the worse and worse and worse the lives of Canadians has gotten. In my placement of this statement regarding Mr. Carney's rich and wealthy spending habits, which happen to be at the cost of taxpayer dollar, it's one thing if you want to dine on your own dollar, Mr. Carney, but if you want to dine on Canadian taxpayer dime, you must also realize there's a lot of hardworking people generating this money, which you have been irresponsibly emptying the national debt, entering further and further and further into this national debt, which at this recession present within the Canadian civilization, the Canadian country, within this particular Canadian country, the current recession, which we will have to pay back, currently sits at $55.3 billion. Now you might say, no problem, we'll get the Canadian workers to pay that back, right? We'll get the workforce of Canada to pay that back, right? The only problem is the more liberal we have gotten, the less our workforce has become, you could say, powerful. The more liberal we have become, the more and more people have decided, I don't want to go to work today. I'd rather take a day to go do this. There's social programs to back you up, spending money out of Canadian taxpayer dollar for people that are choosing not to work. Now you might say, how are we going to stimulate this economy regarding paying back $55.3 billion, placing that debt to be paid back by the Canadian civilians, workers of all different levels. And within these different levels, once again we see one particular get out of jail free card. Mr. Carney and the Liberal Party. Now you see, and I'm not calling for violence on this, I'm simply trying to create an analysis so that we may, as a Canadian country, make a more informed decision. Now, in terms of the way Mr. Carney or Justin Trudeau or any liberal of any particular force at this particular time, there is always a get out of jail free card, meaning the ground that which you stand on is not firm. You can always create a new excuse, a new scenario, a new apology. And the more you apologize to your people as a leader, the more it means you are not doing your job properly, Mr. Carney. And that I would call as negligent, incompetent, precisely. You see, if a politician can't stick to the policies that got him voted in power and continuously change those policies whenever they need, sorry, I gotta grab that out of the Canadian taxpayer pockets. Whenever there is a need for a new excuse, who's the one paying for it? The Canadian taxpayer. And whenever there's one of these excuses, we often see we overestimated or we didn't foresee. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party this whole time has been seeing this blatantly unravel before us. And these two particular sayings, we didn't foresee this coming, or the other one, we were not expecting this. Those are apologies reworded. It's like saying I'm sorry, but in a rich way. Apart from this particular video, I would like you, as a Canadian viewer, or any particular viewer from the world, think of your government's policies before voting them into power. Let's not joke around here, but let me place this fact. Mr. Carney is only in place due to Ontario and Quebec voters having a larger population overruled the rest of Canada that was majority Conservative. Now, for two provinces, we are actively seeing all of Canada be ruled, for two provinces on the east coast, on the east side of Canada, which to the east, us Westerners are nothing but a piggy bank, apparently. No matter what it is, we will provide that money for you. Now, in terms of the Alberta separation referendum, if Canada can be ruled by two provinces, what's to say Canada cannot be ruled by one province? The money generator of all of Canada, Alberta. Now, in Alberta, we have a huge opportunity all of a sudden. You see, in legal terms, it's called gaining leverage and waiting. Now, you see, Mr. Carney, in exposing this negligent incompetence, we are actively seeing, as a Canadian folks, you are still in power. Because essentially, it's going to have to take for you to quit. Because we have so many Liberal voters, apparently. How many votes was it that got you into power, Mr. Carney, in the last election? Which was technically just a transition of government. For 30 plus million people, only 500,000 people voted in the entire election. And based on that 500,000 people, 30 million people now have to represent your values. Now, clearly we see your values don't necessarily have a firm ground to stand on. Because no matter what it is, there is always a get out of jail free card. Thank you.